Breakthrough. Researchers discover a second type of schizophrenia. I'm Steve Belair. Welcome to Breakthroughs. Penn Medicine researchers are the first to discover two distinct neuroanatomical subtypes of schizophrenia after analyzing the brain scans of over 300 patients. The first type showed lower widespread volumes of gray matter when compared to healthy controls, while the second type had volumes largely similar to normal brains. The findings published Thursday in the journal Brain suggested that, in the future, accounting for these differences could inform more personalized treatment options. Numerous other studies have shown that people with schizophrenia have significantly smaller volumes of brain tissue than healthy controls. However, for at least a third of the patients we looked at, this was not the case at all. Their brains were almost completely normal, said principal investigator Christos Davitskos, PhD. In the future, we're not going to be saying, this patient has schizophrenia. We're going to be saying, this patient has this subtype or this abnormal pattern, rather than having a wide umbrella under which everyone is categorized. Schizophrenia is a poorly understood mental disorder that typically presents with hallucinations, delusions, and other cognitive issues. Though symptoms and responses to treatment vary widely from patient to patient, up until now, attempts to study the disease by comparing healthy to diseased brains has neglected to account for this heterogeneity, which Davitskos says has muddled research findings and undermined clinical care. To better characterize the distinct brain differences within the schizophrenia patient population, Davitskos established a research consortium that spanned 3 continents: the United States, China, and Germany. The international cohort of study participants included 307 schizophrenia patients and 364 healthy controls, all of whom were 45 years old or younger. Davitskos and engineering colleagues then analyzed the brain scans using a machine learning method developed in Penn called HYDRA, heterogeneity through discriminative analysis. This approach helps to identify true disease subtypes by limiting the influence of confounding variables such as age, sex, imaging protocols, and other factors, according to the study's authors. This method enables us to subcategorize patients and find how they differed from the controls, while allowing us at the same time to dissect this heterogeneity and tease out multiple pathologies, rather than trying to find a dominant pattern, Davitskos says. After applying this machine learning method to the brain images, the researchers found that 115 patients with schizophrenia, or nearly 40%, did not have the typical pattern of reduced gray matter volume that had been historically linked to the disorder. In fact, their brains showed an increase of brain volume in the middle of the brain in an area called the stratum, which plays a role in voluntary movement. When controlling for differences in medication, age, and other demographics, the researchers could not find any clear explanation for the variation. The subtype 2 patients were very interesting because they have similar demographic and clinical measures with subtype 1, and the only differences were their brain structures, said Ganesh Chad, PhD, a lead author and postdoctoral researcher in the radiology department at Penn. There are a variety of antipsychotic medications available to manage the symptoms of schizophrenia, but how they will affect a particular patient, both positively or negatively, is often a shot in the dark, according to study co-author Daniel Wolf, MD, PhD, and associate professor at psychiatry at Penn. The treatments for schizophrenia work very well in a minority of people, pretty well in most people, and hardly at all in a minority of people. We mostly can't predict the outcome, so it becomes a matter of trial and error, Wolf said. Now that we are starting to understand the biology behind this disorder, then we will hopefully one day have more informed, personalized approaches to the treatment. As to why an entire subset of patients with schizophrenia have brains that resemble healthy people, Davitskos is not willing to speculate. This is where we're puzzled right now, Davitskos said. We don't know. What we do know is that studies that are putting all schizophrenia patients in one group when seeking associations with responses to treatment or clinical measures might not be using the best approach. Wow. Crazy. I'll leave a link to the full article in the description, and as usual, please like, share, subscribe, and take care.